Right, good morning everybody, or just whenever you happen to be watching this. Adam Clery here from the Adam Clery Football Channel, and I'm going to get this in one sentence, right? Milos Kerkez to Liverpool for like 40 million. I think that might be the single best transfer you see all summer. And I know you might well be thinking that is an absolutely absurd claim to be making this early in the window. You need, I don't know, loads of carefully curated footage and some really interesting looking diagrams if you wanted to try and back that up. And yeah, we do. Okay, so the man I have secretly been including in loads of other videos as Serbian Robbo, and for everybody who has felt the need to ask me why I call him Serbian Robbo when he plays for Hungary, it's because he's Serbian. He was born in Serbian. That is a Serbian man who represents Hungary at international level. That would have taken you 3 seconds to Google. He was at Milan for a year where he never kicked a ball, then Alkmaar for a year where he twice played and twice lost against Arne Slot's Feyenoord, and then at Bournemouth for the last 2 years where he twice played and twice lost against Arne Slot's Liverpool. So quite a seasoned player, you would say, for someone only 21 years old. Great! That is still funny to me. So he's a left back, and we all know he's a left back, but what kind of left back is he? Well, specifically the kind that, in my true honest-to-God opinion, is absolutely perfect for what Arne Slot wants to do with this Liverpool team. But yes, okay, very good, great question. What actually is it that he's trying to do? Well, I went through Liverpool season, and I would say this is a fairly typical average positions map for them. I forget what game it is, I'll have it on screen, but this was the average positions the players ended up taking up in that game. And while they pretty much always favoured this 4-3-3 shape to start, I would say this graph pretty accurately depicts how they played within that shape. And first off, you can see a little bit of drift from Trent Alexander-Arnold towards the centre, but last season he wasn't the inverted fullback he'd been in the previous years under Klopp. His job was in fact to play much higher, much nearer the opposition's goal to allow Mo Salah to get into this space here, which is, lo and behold, where we find him in the graph. And just to massively oversimplify this, as a result of having Salah play much closer to the goal, he went from 18 Premier League goals in Klopp's last season to 29 Premier League goals the season just gone. So you'd say that worked. But let us take a quick look across the rest of the team, like Gravenberch and McAllister. Yes, they make sense because one of them is responsible for ball progression in Liverpool's half and the other is responsible for ball progression in the opposition's half, hence how they're sort of a double pivot, but nicely spread. Dominic Szoboszlai and Luis Diaz, they are your primary sort of false nines pressers. They took turns doing all these different jobs. They were very good at that. They were very important to the system, even if more goals would have been nice. But if we look across to the left-hand side of the pitch, you can see the issue that Slot is trying to solve. Because even though Cody Gakpo plays as the left-sided forward, he actually operates more like a centre-forward than either Diaz or Salah do. And yet, his average position has him much further away from that goal. He should be the primary box threat. But if we contextualize this graph by adding Cody Gakpo's heat map from this game, and again, I would say this is fairly typical of Liverpool over that entire season, not just this one game, you can see why his average position is way further away than the other two. He's spending so much of the game in a more traditional left wing role, even though, while he's good at that, it's not the best use of him. You want him in the box. And just really quickly, before I show you why Kerkez is going to help him to fix this, right? Let's just do a little bit of mental percentages, right? Look at Gakpo's heat map again. How much, what percentage of his touches in this game would you estimate are in the final third? Like, what are we saying here? About 25%, if that? And then of that 25%, how many of those touches would you say are in a more central area where he can do the most damage? Again, I'd probably say another 25% on top of that. So that's clearly not an efficient way to use his skills. What would be efficient is if we look at the same graph for Mo Salah, and what percentage of these touches would you say are now in the final third? I would say that jumps from about 25 to 50%, so nearly half the time on the ball is spent in an area he can hurt the opposition. And again, of that 50%, how much of that is in a central area not stuck out wide? Probably about another 50%. Now that is way, way better for a player you want to be providing a goal threat. And obviously, don't get me wrong, Liverpool still won the league and Cody Gakpo had an excellent season, so this does work to an extent, but what Arne Slot is trying to do is improve that, because if you can improve that, you improve the team. So that then begs the question, why does Mo Salah have this graph and Cody Gakpo have that graph? And the really simple answer is because Mo Salah was being supported by a far more dangerous fullback. Whether it was Alexander-Arnold getting into wide spaces to cross the ball or Bradley making runs down the outside of him, Liverpool always felt like they had way more threat last season down this right-hand side, and that allowed Salah to focus his game more in the areas where he can hurt you. They did not have that on the left. Now, it was actually Tsimikas who started this game in particular, but this holds true for Andy Robertson as well. What Liverpool have at left-back right now is a willing runner, is a talented player, someone who's not a defensive liability, but also not a player who overly troubles the opposition. And Robertson in particular, like this is his heat map for the entirety of last season. You'll see he's finally starting to spend less and less time in this part of the pitch and more sort of here as the years rack up. And obviously, don't get me wrong, he's only 31. I still think he's got an awful lot to give this Liverpool team, but he doesn't have that explosiveness to blow past players anymore. So he has to be more discerning with when he makes those sorts of overlapping runs. So on one side of the pitch, you've got a constant, excellent, really, really good threat, especially now you've got Frimpong in. And on the other, you've got the same threat, but a lot less consistently. So if you are on a slot, how do you address this? Well, what you want to go and get is a player who's incredibly aggressive on the ball, forces himself into the opposition third almost instinctively, but at the same time is robust defensively. You don't want to add a weakness while you're trying to add a strength. And more importantly, super, super athletic, because you want him to do this constantly in every game and play every game. And genuinely, right, I've really thought about this. I think if Liverpool were playing a video game with an unlimited money cheat on, they still could not have gone out and got a better player for this exact role than Milos Kerkez. And I know I've got this weird lob on for heat maps today, but just right, bear with me, right? If you look at Milos Kerkez last season, I personally think any player starting in the defence of a team outside the top 5, 6 or 7 sides, spending more of his season in the opposition half than he did his own, is really, really eye-catching, especially if that team could still defend quite well. Because ultimately, if you're playing for a team that is not going to dominate the ball in almost every single game, then again, just like Andy Robertson with his aging legs, you need to pick and choose your moments. You need to be more discerning unless you are either good enough that you know you won't waste the ball when you get up there, or athletic enough to recover if you do. And Kerkez is both of those things. He is an extremely powerful runner who basically allows the left-sided forward to just naturally take a more central starting position because he will get outside of them so consistently. It's pretty much just like having another forward there, even though he's got to travel 60 or 70 yards to join in. And to illustrate that, my friends, here is, I think, possibly the single greatest graph Opta have ever produced, and I have subsequently borrowed. These are all the overlapping runs done by Andy Robertson, who I would still argue is one of the best at this and plays for a team that sees loads of the ball. The red ones are the successful overlaps he made, where he went outside of his forward and received the ball. That's a lot. Despite his advancing years, despite his diminishing returns as an attacking force, he still plays for a great team who want him to do this. I think that's a really solid return for this particular thing, which is an important thing. But would you like to see the same graph last season for Milos Kerkez? Of course you would. And yeah, that's pretty good. So the arrows in grey are just all the supporting runs he made to try and help a teammate out. Him and Robertson have virtually the exact same number, like 690 to 700 or something like that. But in terms of these successful overlapping runs where he goes outside a teammate and is then found with the ball, thus putting him in a brilliant position, it is almost exactly twice as many as Andy Robertson. And remember, he plays for a team that sees the ball less. So if you want to like scale that up in your head, it's way more Every single one of those red arrows represents a moment in the Premier League where Kerkez wasn't just in the final third to make up the numbers or to be a bit of a distraction, but tangibly had the ball in the opposition final third, putting the f***ing willies up all the other defenders. Which, yeah, now that I said that, I do really hope is an expression where you come from as well, because, yeah, it's a bit weird, that one, if not. But yes, I digress. Liverpool fans, you may have noticed we've so far only mentioned Cody Gakpo in this left-sided conversation, and not sexy, exciting summer signing. Try saying that 10 times. Florian Wirtz. And that's because right now we don't necessarily know where he's going to play. A lot of people assume it'll be on the left. There's an argument he could be this left-sided number 8. I think he'll be a false 9 on occasion. But if they do use him out here, which seems to be the consensus, then that would make Kerkez worth 40 million alone. Now, you can, of course, refer back to the dedicated Florian Wirtz video we did. Why not? I thought it was pretty good, but one of the major takeaways is that he is not a left-sided player. He wants to play in this half space, a left-sided 10. And the reason at Leverkusen they had a back 3 and wing-backs was to enable these two players to not have to worry about the wide areas. The wing-backs could do that while retaining a stable base behind them. You thus did not need Florian Wirtz or the other number 10 to worry about what was going on the touchline. Obviously, they could drift out there. Free will is a thing, but they could focus their play in these sort of channel areas nearer the goal. See where I'm going with this? Because both the wing-backs would play as the wide players. Now, I don't think Liverpool are going to play with a back 3, but if you just look at this and you imagine that this is actually Ryan Gravenberch sitting behind the other two midfielders, but able to drop in if they really need to. And all of a sudden, that's a very similar sort of setup because you've got Kerkez, because you've got Frimpong, because you've got Bradley, because you can't get Andy Robertson to do this. He's still got it in him. All of a sudden, that narrows the pitch for Wirtz and it narrows the pitch for Salah. And just to tie it back to the point at the start of the video, if you do want to play Wirtz up front or even in central midfield, none of my business, and you keep Cody Gakpo in, look all of a sudden where he finds himself. Much nearer to the goal, where he should be. But hey, do you know what? You're right, this is not a video about Liverpool's tactics. This is a video about Milos Kerkez and is he worth the money and should you be excited? Well, this is where he wants to play. Imagine how Liverpool will play, but this is where he wants to play. What does he do when he's there? Well, to be blunt, if you are charged with providing the width for your team so that a forward can narrow and you're on your strong foot, if you cannot reliably deliver the ball from that area, you might as well not be there because teams will just let you get on with it, not fearing the cross, and double up on the actual attacker. And if we look at Kerkez's numbers from last season, his success rate for carrying the ball is amongst the league's best. You're talking top 15, 20% for all his running numbers. Again, remembering he's not playing for one of the top teams, so the volume of these will naturally be lower than it would be at Liverpool. Expect those to jump up. And I'll just quickly show you them. While his passing numbers are not at all impressive, because he's not that kind of fullback, they do suddenly take an enormous leap up when you look at purely crossing the ball into the box. That is his game. In fact, and we will talk about whether or not he can actually defend in a second, don't worry, Dad, I would go so far as to say he's one of my favourite crossers of a ball in the entire division. He is adept at hitting any sort of cross from any sort of position, and I will show you two such examples. First off, this goal they get against Spurs is just him in a nutshell, right? He intercepts the ball, which he does quite a lot because he reads the game excellently. I think. He charges forward, looks like he's actually the left forward in this attack, he's blown past his teammates, and spots this run all the way over here. And the cross here is just so incredibly early and just so incredibly deep, so accurate, and it just completely murders Tottenham. Like, I do not think there are many players, let alone fullbacks, who can hit that ball, and even fewer of them can hit it while they are running. But then there's this one from the season before, which is just completely different. Again, he sets up Dominic Solanke, and there is no space to hit here. There is no target area of the pitch, but he looks and he hits a perfectly driven low ball into his feet. And it isn't just a totally different technique for striking the ball, it's a completely different mental computation to even think to do it. And it's so rare, I keep saying this, it's so rare to find fullbacks who not only have that sort of variety in their delivery, but can then execute every element of it consistently. And yes, just to close this off, he absolutely can defend. You are not going to wet the bed looking at his numbers, but on the old eye test, yeah, he's just really solid. He almost never gets beaten one-on-one, is as mentally interested in sprinting back as he is sprinting forward, which is a rarer thing than you'd think. He battles really well, he covers for his teammates really well. He can definitely improve in some areas here and may struggle against the very best forwards and wingers, but he's 21. That's why you buy 21-year-olds, so you can put them with better players and they'll help you improve that. And he's going to be spending a lot of his time within a couple of yards of Virgil van Dijk, which may help. So yes, just to round up, an absolutely sensational transfer at not a ludicrous sum of money, who can go straight into your first team, improves that area of the team already, and helps you get more out of what you've got elsewhere on the pitch. I think, in terms of value for money, potential and immediate impact, I genuinely think you are going to struggle to see a better transfer in the Premier League this season. Happy to be proven wrong, and God knows I'll probably do a few more videos saying transfers are really good, but right now, it's that one. It's that one for me. Thanks. And of course, you can get me across all the social medias at Adam Clery, C-L-E-R-Y. I'm fun everywhere, not just on YouTube, so treat yourself. Go check that out as well. And yeah, I'll see you next time. I can't take this jacket off now because it's so hot in here. You do not want to see that. I'm going to go outside. Goodbye.